Hi, welcome to Preps Plus Podcast, episode 50. I'm Josh Hart, sports editor here at the Daily News, here with Jason Leskiw, Preps reporter.
Yeah.
Episode 50. We started this a long time ago. Did you think we'd get to 50?
I mean, that was the hope, but...
Yeah, well, we started what, last basketball season, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, with
Not
Ross.
last, two basketball seasons ago.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was. During the postseason.
Yeah, must have been.
Yeah, I want to say...
With Rothwell
That's right.
and Marriott? Was the first time?
That may have been, I believe it was, in fact. Yeah, it's a good memory.
Wow. Yeah, that's a long time ago.
That was a very long time
We're
ago.
almost coming up on basketball again. Wow. Okay. Well, 50th episode. We got nothing special planned for you because we just realized it was 50th episode just a second ago. But we'll talk about some football, some playoff scenarios. There's not a whole lot of up in the air, I guess, about Week 9. There is some things that we'll talk about, and then at the end we'll have an interview with Logann Golden, junior over at Castle Rock, and Coach Jeana. What did you guys talk about?
Well, the number one thing that was interesting to me is how you defend a team that's super tall, like a couple of the private schools that they're almost destined to face in state, but also the leadership and kind of development into that captain role that Logann Golden currently owns. Yeah,
I just got done watching Castle Rock's 5-set loss to La Center in the de facto Trico title game, and I've been saying all year how good Castle Rock is defensively, and yet I hadn't gotten a chance to see them. I can kind of know teams based on conversations with coaches, and man, they are as good as advertised. I know it was kind of a frustrating defeat for them, but Logann Golden is phenomenal defensively. That doesn't even mention how versatile she is on offense once she gets into the front row.
Right.
But just when she's in that back row, she's dynamite. And then you combine that with Rachel Anderson, and you really have a really unstoppable. It's really hard to beat them, especially when they get their block up with Zoe Noggle in the front row.
Right.
When she's making that block, they are really, really tough to beat, and they're a lot of fun to watch. And LeBaron Court was just raucous tonight. I was telling you earlier, it's one of the loudest stadiums I've been in at any level. It was deafening. It was really impressive, and hats off to a small school. I know it's smaller confines, so it's going to kind of echo in the gym a little bit, but hats off to a small school, and to La Center too. They always bring quite a fan base to really just make that one of the best high school atmospheres for any game I've seen. So hats off to them, and districts are going to be a lot of fun because Kingsway Christian's certainly going to factor into the mix, as well as Elma. So you only have 3 spots on the line. It's going to be really interesting. And Jeana Bay's liked actually going in as the number 2 seed. It does set up a little bit more favorably for them. You might not have to face a Kingsway or a La Center until later. So
Right.
It'll be. I think it'll be a real treat next
funny.
week.
La Center has really been a challenge for them over the years, even if Castle Rock's a better team. So La Center.
Yeah, they've gone back and forth. You look at, it always seems to come down to those 2 teams for the league title, and obviously Castle Rock won it last year, La Center won it this year. That's just kind of how it is for them in volleyball. It's for a lot of years. Obviously, Kalama, when they were back in 1A, factored into the mix a fair bit too. But yeah, La Center, Castle Rock, both just really great programs led by great coaches that just maintain that level of success. So it'll be interesting to see how everyone progresses out of districts there. As we're on the topic of Castle Rock, let's move over to the football team. We kind of got this wrong a little bit on our end, actually a couple times. Castle Rock's not locked into the playoffs. They're doing the crossovers a little bit differently than they have in the past because there's only so many teams. They got 4 spots to go around. So instead of sending 4 and 1v4, 2v3s, there's the top seeds get byes in week 10, and then 2s and 3s play each other. So what that means for Castle Rock football is they need a win over La Center this week. They lose, they're out. They win, and there's possibilities of three-way ties, there are possibilities of them automatically getting in. There's a lot of things that can happen, but they first need to win that game. You spoke a little bit with Wyatt Partridge earlier this week. What's kind of made Castle Rock kind of, I mean, you saw him against Mark Morris just get obliterated in week 2.
Partridge was the one player I probably didn't talk to for that story.
Oh, okay.
But I'll tell you, I do know the answer to that, and it's stopping the center run game. You do that, and I think you have a very good chance of winning the ball game. I mean, I think that's true with pretty much any team, but obviously, if you're talking, some teams have really dynamic quarterbacks that can do a lot of things. So, but if they stop the run game, which I think the roster is capable of doing, then it's all good.
What's been key to the turnaround for them? I mean, this is a program that's notoriously started some seasons real slow the past few years. But, I mean, you go from a 48-7 loss to Mark Morris. And Mark Morris is a good team, but that's a real ugly loss to take in week 2. What's kind of led to the turnaround where they can get some wins under their belt? And obviously they had the really kind of thriller last week over Seton Catholic. But what's kind of led to some of those?
It's Wyatt Partridge. He's averaging almost 9 yards a carry. That right there combined, I mean, he's a good receiver also. And so he's been, he's been Rock's rock. They're granite, I guess, if you will. And so if kind of going back to the ground game, if he has a good game, I think they probably win also.
Yeah. I think it should be interesting. Down south as well, down in Vancouver, and this is the game I'll be at. Kelso's playing Hudson's Bay. Of course, we all remember what happened last year. I think a really iconic image of Amrine running out as this crowd's behind him, and I think really encapsulates kind of the joy that Amrine brings to the game. But basically the same exact scenario, right? This time around. Both teams not officially clinched, but they're certainly guaranteed being part of that. Kelso's guaranteed being part of a three-way tie for second. But Kelso has its, control of its own fate, right? They win, they're number 2, they're going to Rainier Beach. Now that's easier said than done in Vancouver against a very tough Hudson's Bay team. As last year, they were pretty heavy favorites going in as well, and it comes down to A.J. Hoggett finding John Roberts with a call at the line, he has the permission to get up to the line and no time on the clock, finds John Roberts. There was a lot of controversy with that after the game because Hudson's Bay fans didn't think he got in. I was behind the end zone, and I didn't think there was any question about it. The video shows it's close. In the moment, I didn't really even see. I didn't even think, it's just so quick, bang, bang type of thing. But certainly there's going to be some revenge factor for Hudson's Bay to try to get back on top. How do you see that one playing out?
Well, I see it playing out at 5 o'clock. And as we discussed earlier in the week, Kelso's record in early games isn't as good as...
Yeah, I mean, it's
probably
a tough...
an anomaly, but, maybe there's something to not playing under the lights versus...
It's a tough thing to do, right? As a high schooler, you have a certain routine, you get jazzed up, you're under the lights, it adds that certain bit of flair, and it's different playing earlier. Right. And I think it does favor the underdog, just because they're going to be hungry, and not saying Kelso isn't, but I just think I would rather have, if it's my team, I'd rather have them playing late if I'm the favorite, because I'm in my own rhythm. I can control the game. I can dictate the pace. Kelso, going to that 5 o'clock, I think it's going to be weird. And going down to Vancouver, sometimes there's just been some weird results over the years.
Right. And playing on the road too. I mean, I don't put much stock into it, but in this one, it might. I can see it factoring by 3 or more points. And
I think it's going to be tough for Kelso to overcome last week in a lot of ways too. I really respect that coaching staff a lot, but they are still high school kids. And with what happened last week to Mountain View, just kind of the way that just kind of unfolded of it all, just like you're tied 7-7 at halftime, and then it just gets away from you in a big way. And I think we'll really see kind of how tough Marshall Coleman is as a leader back there. And he's not required to be this team vocal guy, but you are the quarterback. Ball touches your hands every play, and you throw a couple pick sixes. How do you respond to that?
Right.
So I think we'll really see kind of what kind of composure he's made of, and what Kelso kind of how they respond to something like that.
Well, and I also think, and this might be the most important part of tomorrow, especially for Kelso moving forward, is how does Hudson Bay try to defend Joshua?
Yeah.
I think that'll at least give them a preview into what a lot of other teams are thinking about it after they see Kelso film.
And he's going to be real hungry to get some yardage. I mean, he had a great first drive, and it led to 0 points last week against Mountain View. But Mountain View did some things defensively that kind of got Kelso out of its playbook. And they just, as Steve Amrine put it, they really cut down on what we could do in our playbook, just based on how physical and fast they are. So I think Webb will be hungry. I think it's also, they really need to get some momentum if they win going into Rainier Beach. I think they really need a good, solid, soundly played win going up there, because Rainier Beach, I think, is a little bit down than they were last year or the last couple of years, but still an excellent football team that you have to go see how to play. So that's never easy. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting. Certainly, I think closer than people expect. But Kelso, prove us wrong, and then tweet at us and and say you did so. So that's Kelso. Morrison Long obviously eliminated from the postseason. Woodland's already clinched their number 2 seed. They'll face Tumwater in week 10 after Black Hills beat Tumwater last week. So Woodland certainly has their work cut out for them in week 10. So they'll want to play well heading into that one. Never like to face Tumwater in the postseason. Rainier's already clinched a state playoff spot, a home first round game, and league title, where I imagine they'll end up being number 1, or they could end up being number 2 based on RPI and Collie and all that good stuff. Which leads us to Clatskanie. They play Willamina, and to break down the situation, there's only 2 places from each division that are locked in based on records. Everything else is based on the OSA rating, which is a combination of RPI and Collie. There's 2 spots between the Special District 1, so the West and the East. 2 spots available for the OSA ranking. There's also 1 at-large bid. Just based on their ranking currently, it looks like they're a pretty sure bet to get that. Things can change and things get kind of weird with that. So if they win, they're basically in. Now they're playing a very tough Willamina team who's currently ranked higher than them, but Rainier easily dispatched of them, and Clatskanie went toe-to-toe with Amity. They're finally getting healthy. Where do you see the Tigers right now? How do you see this one playing out as they, I think either way they probably enter the postseason, but, how do you see this playing out this week, and if so, going forward?
Clatskanie, it feels like Clatskanie has really underachieved to this point, and I almost feel like, 1 week you're getting one thing, the next week you're getting something totally different. They should win the game.
Yeah.
But I think I've felt that way about every game they've played this season. So we'll see. I got no prediction on that
right.
one.
And I think you're right. I think Clatskanie has the most talent of anybody in the state. I think that hands down. But you're right. There's been a lot of injuries and a lot of moving parts there. But yeah, they have to really show up for this one. And they have to like how they played against Amity in a loss last week. So we'll see how good's going. Like I said, having James Hillman, some of those guys back really, really helps. There's just so many skilled guys to go around, and especially with Cedric's Heath breaking out too. You add another guy who you thought you have this laundry list of great skilled guys, and you just add another one to the mix. So it'll be interesting. Ilwaco, they traveled to PL to play PL Willapa Valley. Do you see them being able to win that game and get in a 3-way tie? They're a team that's really overachieved this season, right?
Yeah, and hats off to, you got a bunch of players coming into a difficult situation. New coach, a couple new personalities to learn, maybe some new terminology, some new plays, and you got a new head coach. And that is not an easy thing to do for anybody. It doesn't matter where you are. If you got an NFL, if you're taking over for Nick Saban and you got that kind of roster or not. It's tough. And so, I think PWV takes that game. But as you said, Waco's overachieved, and I think you got to give them. Nobody overachieves on a whim, I don't think, and
right.
So you got to give them at least. There has to be that opening for them, and I think when you go and watch that game.
Right, and we haven't gotten out to the coast yet and seen Waco play, but some things that are interesting that jump out of the stat line is how well Jackson Wilkin has ran this year and how well Jeb Sheldon has ran this year. Though, Jeb Sheldon's a tight end, and he comes into a new scheme and is their top runner. I mean, I think Sean Cease has done a really good job to be in the position where if they win this game, now they're in a three-way tie for first seed, and looking at a home playoff game and all the good things that come along with that. You don't want to have to.
Then you have to play Central teams, but.
Yeah, I mean, if they fall to the 3 seed, right, which is the problem, right? 1 or 2 gets to play River, and if you fall to that 3 seed, which if Ilwaco loses this game will be, you have to play Napawine. So there's a lot at stake.
Yeah.
You don't want to play Napawine. I'd much rather play Wahkiakum than Winlock.
Yeah, there's no good that comes out of that
play Napawine. Yeah. If you don't want to play Tumwater in the postseason, you definitely don't want to play Napawine.
Yeah.
Kalama's already clinched league title. They'll most likely host Morton White Pass in week 10. Toledo's already clinched the 2 seed. They'll most likely host on Alaska in week 10. Winlock Wahkiakum. They're in the exact same situation. A win, they're the 3 seed. A loss, they're the 4 seed. And there's a big difference because if PWV wins that game against Ilwaco, there's a big difference between traveling to PWV and traveling to Raymond. No offense to Raymond, they've done an excellent job this year, but PWV is just a seasoned team that's been there before. So there's a lot at stake in this Winlock Wahkiakum game, and probably going to be a closer game than people would have thought at the beginning of the season.
I would agree with that. I mean, Wahkiakum's just been banged up beyond belief. There's one of the big fallouts I think after Bo Carlson, who was the player who had a serious head injury and is still recovering from that. Is a lot of guys, and I think this is totally normal, where you start to think about things more than you would have, and it becomes maybe less fun. And I think having fun is the number one thing. When you're out there, it's you talk about some of the greats in football. When it stops, people like Peyton Manning, for example, it stopped becoming fun. He hung it up because it wasn't worth it at that point. And I feel like maybe there's a little bit of that in the Wahkiakum roster, but also just the guys that were having fun might have a bum ankle or and so their loss to Toledo 2 weeks ago was not pretty, and I think you saw just how much I was surprised to see just how much those injuries and that morale may have taken a toll on the team. I agree with you. I think it could be very close.
It really can be easy. Not only Bo Carlson, but then you have the middle school incident out in Kaiflame, a couple weeks later, and I think it does take some of the shine out of the game for you, right? You have to at least think about it before you go out on the field, and that's kind of the scary part of this game is that when you do step out on the field, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to come home. And
even outside of practice, I mean, you go to school and it's being talked about. You go home and it's being talked about. So it's a really difficult situation.
Right. So I feel for Wahkiakum because I really think they had a talented roster this year.
Yes.
And it's been a very difficult year. And I mean, heck, this has no effect on the football team, but it's been a tough year for Kathleen, and you have the golf team in the spring as well. So it's just been a really tough year out there for in that small community, and everyone's tight out there. So best wishes out to the entire Kathleen community for all that they're dealing with. Tudor Lake eliminated from the postseason. Nacelle clinched a Northwest 1B league title. They'll get a bye in week 10, and then they'll host a week 11 playoff game, likely versus Evergreen Lutheran or Merriam Knight, I think, is the last time I checked kind of where that might fall. The next real test they really have, I think, would be the state quarterfinals. You're facing probably like a Garfield Palouse, I would imagine, depending on how the seating committee gets it. But is this a team that can make a title run? Can they get past those first couple games when, the semifinals? You're going to have to face one of the big three, right? Sunnyside, ACH, or
right.
or Odessa, the number one team.
I really, it's tough because, so like, I'm really happy that Nacel's gotten the opportunity to play in a league that actually, or was supposed
to challenge them. They made it look foolish. But.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, the results were no different than in previous years when you look at the standings. But they did face better competition. I expect that would make an impact at this point in the year. ACH is tough. I mean, that game last year up in Montesano was ugly. I mean, it was really hard to watch after by about the third quarter. It was so. A large part of me thinks, okay, what they've had to deal with this year, as far as better defenses, playing better offenses, should make an impact. That said, Sunnyside and ACH are very good teams.
And Odessa number one, and they already rolled Nacelle earlier this year. So.
Yeah. But I think having the chance to see those teams, before the postseason also makes a massive difference.
Yeah, it almost makes me wonder if we're overlooking Nacelle a little bit because of how much they've torched this league this year, and we go, oh, it's just their league play. But this is an entirely different league where you have a Lummi and a Nia Bay program that are consistently good. Now, I do believe Lummi and Nia Bay are down this year, right? But I mean, these are good programs with good coaches, and Nacelle's made them look foolish. And it makes me wonder: is Nacelle way better than we think? Are we writing them off because it's the league they play in? Well, it is a different league with some really good teams historically. So, maybe they're better than we think, and that's what it does make me wonder. I mean, you got Cole Dorman, who's excellent, right? I mean, they have like three of our top 5 receiving leaders as well. So, I know it's 8-man, but remember, it's not like they've done that in the past either. It's not like they've led the area like that.
And I think that's the big deal because I really don't think Dorman's a different player. I mean, obviously he's probably developed some. I think he's developed some for sure. But he was always able to make the throws that he needed to make. He was always able to read the coverages pretty well. And I think maybe from that point it became, can player X catch and run? Can the defense shut another team down? And they sure have this year. So I think Nacelle's postseason success this year especially rides on what Dorman's able to do.
Yeah, and he's a great quarterback. And the thing that I think will make Nacelle interesting is who can defend their receivers, because I don't think they can keep up with some of the speed that Sunnyside and ACH and Odessa offer on offense. So I wonder how they slow those teams down. But I do think maybe they can win a shootout just because you got Ethan Lindstrom, Jacob Eaton, and Josh Townsend. And those dudes, I mean, you just watch them in all their sports, those dudes are athletes. Like just straight up. I mean, you're thrown to 6'3" Jacob Eaton or 6 foot Ethan Lindstrom, guys that excel all year round, and
they got freshmen making an impact on defense too.
Yeah,
and Fasad Tutu. Did I say that right?
I think so. I think that's close.
I hope so. That's a tough name for me. I think for anybody, but the dude is wrecking shop on defense too. They got a squad.
Yeah. Sure. So it'll be interesting because in years past they go up to like a Lummi for the postseason or whatever, and you go, well, they're gonna just get beat, and they just don't have the bodies, And this year I think it might be different. It makes me wonder, can they keep up with an ACH type of deal? We've seen plenty of 1B shootouts in the state playoffs where neither team can. I mean, think about how much space there is on a field, right? If a team plays well offensively, you can't stop them. So that's why you see these really good 1B football teams score, 60 to 52 type of things. How are you going to stop a really good offense?
This is probably the one team in the state that's had a running clock after the first quarter. Not the first half, after the first quarter. So
yeah. So it'll be interesting. I'd like some of our teams to advance deep because I enjoy covering postseason football. But I'm not sure how many we'll have. I think there's a couple that can make some deep runs. I like Kalama again to do so. A lot of it does depend on seeding committee draws too. It'll be interesting to see how all that shapes up because I don't think we'll see Kalama Napavine first round matchup anymore. And so that'll be interesting because I think it allows our teams to progress further because they don't have the risk of losing in that first round.
And I'm glad you brought that up because there's two things that I'll be really curious to see what happens. The first and the big one to me is Toledo. It's like, okay, for the folks on the committee who haven't seen him play, and even if you have seen him play, you might have seen two very different things. So you see fumbles, you see not fumbles, you see just lights out defense, and then you see guys getting open, and it's just so that to me, because I don't know how I'd rank them either, to be fair. So how Toledo is ranked entering the postseason?
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I think they meet Ani in the week 10, and so that's going to be interesting just to see if they can get by Ani because Ani's a similar team to them in a lot of ways. But Ani just wears you down, and so they obviously have a chance even if they lose that game through some Kansas tiebreaker to get in still. So. But that's a coin flip. So I would not be shocked either to see Toledo on the outside looking in of state. But that's just kind of the way it's been. Speaking of their defense, I was doing the stats today, and Christensen sent over some updated stuff from the last 2 weeks. Hunter Eaton has 13 sacks this year.
Does not surprise me one bit. That dude is just, and that's getting double teamed half the time.
Yeah.
He's probably a D1 caliber lineman, which is something you don't really say about anybody in the 2B.
He's tough as nails too. Against Kalama, he rolled his ankle or something. It was clearly painful because he's a tough dude and he's screaming at the top of his lungs and kicking the ground. Right? Coaches come out. Tried to take him out. He said, no. I'm going back in, coaches. And, clearly he was in a lot of pain.
I think there was if I remember a story about him, too, there was a point where he injured his shoulder or his collarbone, too. And same thing. Coaches were trying to take him out. I think he came out for one play. And, and then he's looking and he just darts out on the field. And and I'll tell you, there's nobody in Toledo or probably anywhere else in Lewis County that's going to want to try to fight him to get him off the field either. So, and that's how offensive lines feel with the
Yeah, he's a heck of a player. There's sometimes too I've seen him down near the goal line. He's just screaming as he's blocking a dude. Yeah. If I'm the defender, I'm running the other way. All right. Yeah. You can open up the hole. I'm not gonna get ran over here.
I got a whole life in front of me.
So that's kind of the Week 9 playoff picture. We'll jump right into that interview with another playoff-bound volleyball team in Castle Rock, and we'll see you next week for some Week 10.
All right, I'm here with Logann Golden, Jeana Bay's Castle Rock volleyball. I guess in Logan's case, Castle Rock, pretty much everything. Thanks for joining me on this. What's the season been like for you guys so far?
Well, we've been very successful so far. We had one little hiccup during the middle of our season, but I feel like we've come out of that really strong. We've had a couple really successful, tough matches that we've been able to manipulate our way, and with the players that I have on the court and on this team, they have the desire and the need for being in championships. You know, they've been there, they've tasted it, they've been to state, they've placed, and they really have that drive. So I feel like, we're 12-1, and that's a really good place to be right now. We're playing for first place tomorrow. And I say first place because that's where in my heart I believe that we can execute that. But it's a great team. We lost a few major positions last year, so we're trying to fill those and get just more court time and more success for our underclassmen.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And as Logan paces anxiously, I got a question for you. What's the season been like for you, stepping into, what I have to imagine is a little bit different of a role?
I would say definitely an eye-opener. Last year, Anna was main captain, and so this year, like it really got put into perspective, like how much more I needed to step up as not only a teammate but a role model, and really talk to the players and encourage them and hype them up and be there and supporting them, rather than kind of sitting back but still being part of the team and still being there.
Okay. Is there a different mindset that you have to have before each game?
Definitely. I would say, as a whole, our team should be hyped all the time, but coming in as captain, you gotta realize more people look at you. So, if there's a bad play or something bad happens, you can't just yell at your teammates, you gotta keep encouraging. Sometimes I gotta look away because I'm like, oh my God, but other than that, you just gotta come in all the time and stay positive no matter what the outcome is.
Okay.
And especially for Logan, a lot of she's played volleyball forever. She's got a volleyball family. She knows the sport in and out. The kids are constantly looking up to her too. When she's hyped, they want to be hyped. When she has game face, they have game face. And so that's something that she's really had to, I think, adjust to. But she does a great job. I think another really important part that people don't understand from that perspective is she was captain last year, but moved into the role of court captain. And there's a lot of pressure to that because she is my lifeline between the referees and myself. And there's sometimes that's not a really pretty job, like last night when I'm telling her to communicate. She finally walks back and they won't talk to me. So she has to take some front on that, but then be able to turn around and be like, come on guys, let's go. So she's really great at being able to do dual jobs at the same time. Definitely.
How tough is that as a player? No official is going to be perfect, and some officials are going to be bad, and it's hard probably not to be angry when you're discussing something, right?
Yeah. You honestly just have to kill them with kindness. You could be so angry at them, and you just gotta walk up there and be like, I'm so sorry to come over here, but what was the call? And then you just kind of work it back your way, but some of them are hard to just sorry, I can't talk to you. You just okay, I'm sorry, I'll just go back.
Okay.
Kindness is the key.
Right. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And how much different is this? Like I asked you a second ago, obviously the team dynamic is going to be a little bit different. But has the feeling been the same this year as it was last year for you guys?
I think we have. I think we have the same feeling, the same mentality. The win, we've been very successful. We do house 4 freshmen this year, so that is a new experience. All of them play club. They're used to the intensity of the game and the long matches, the big hype. But you know as well as I do, when you're playing in front of your home crowd, where everybody's watching you, it takes time to adjust. It really does. And it takes a couple years for some of them to be able to get that mindset with the crowd, people yelling their name. And so they're having to make a huge adjustment, which I'm so proud of them because, we haven't had any breakdowns or meltdowns yet. And you can definitely see sometimes when the game gets tight that the upperclassmen tend to have more ease. And so that's when my leadership really comes in from those. The upperclassmen definitely is helpful. They've been through it. They've been there. They've been the ones on the bottom trying to learn from the upperclassmen. But we also have a pretty nice team. So we really do a lot of high fives and a lot of communication. And that's we keep saying, you don't have to be best friends, but on the court we're a family. And this year on the back of our jerseys, the girls elected to put Ohana which means family, and all the way down to the JV level. And then we're continuing to work with our middle school, trying to just get that one program vibe, which has been really positive this year. We've really brought that back, I think, this year more than any others, and the girls have really bought into that program. So that's nice to see that we have more than just the varsity, but the JV, the middle school, and we got kids at 3rd and 4th grade playing club now. They come to every match. They're out here. I mean, they idolize these kids. And so, I mean, I can tell you that's Logan's number, and they come, and it's kind of the atmosphere, and hopefully someday when these girls move on, that we can continue to keep that tradition alive. It's been successful so far since we've been here. Of course, we've housed a lot of great athletes to go with it as well, which makes it helpful.
And as a player, how much has changed at that kind of mental level?
I would say not much. Just more of, we have a lot of freshmen this year, so the whole mindset of getting them ready, getting them prepared, rather, because it's a huge change from school to club. Because club, you still have fans and everyone, but if you go to a club game, there's mostly just your fans are just the back row on both ends, whereas school, you have stands packed, you have people yelling. Club, it's more of you just cheer after the point, whereas we have student section here, student section there, and they're cheering, they're yelling while you're serving, band. It's just one huge atmosphere. It's more of a getting used to type thing, rather than oh my god, I'm playing. Whereas I would just say atmosphere is definitely a huge game changer.
Does that having so many people be so loud, how much of that can impact a game for any player in the team?
I'd say a great amount. Our home crowd is amazing, and we really feed off that as a program, and it's really been a key to our success as a whole, I would say.
And we have people, adults leading cheers in the stand. The band plays. We got people student section cheering. We have people over behind our bench. So sometimes I lose my voice by the second set because I'm
sometimes.
Yeah, I know, right? But propelling over to be able to, a 30-second timeout, it's not a very long time, and when we're switching sets, we just don't have a lot of time to communicate and make changes on the fly. And so the girls have been really good about taking little snippets here and making changes immediately on the fly, which is extremely helpful too, and that's I think one of our most beneficial things too. I can say, hey, we're moving block, we need to be here on coverage. I need you making sure that you're, all different kinds of things, and they just move and adjust, and they have enough trust in each other to make sure the job's getting done.
Okay. And you guys, especially, last year as a sophomore for you, you already had state experience coming in volleyball season.
Yeah.
I bet. Mm-hmm. How much of that factors in when you kind of know, hey, not only just the competition, but the nerves and the added emotion?
I would say you definitely still get nervous as every year, for sure. It's just the whole getting your team prepared, not just yourself. You kind of give them a taste of what to expect, but you don't really know how to receive that until you're there and you see for yourself.
Okay.
And the great part about our program is our younger kids will have probably 40 to 50 middle school kids that come over to state and watch, and a lot of them are volleyball players. And even siblings, younger siblings of them. So, at any given time we'll have 60 volleyball players, even the little ones, 3rd and 4th graders that are going over to state to see that. So a lot of times they'll be there prior in the stands and watching before they get to actually be down on the court, which I think also makes, she's been going ever since she was little, So, but I think it's definitely a mindset. The nerves, it's the nerves set in, and you just have to, change that to that atmosphere immediately and make the changes that you need to be successful there. But all the teams will really feel the same thing. So it's kind of gives us a little added bonus, but definitely is a big deal.
Okay.
we're hoping tomorrow leads us in the direction we need to go, so that we can be set up. I mean, either way, we're going to take it for what it is. We're going to keep working hard. We're going to come back in on Wednesday, and depending on wherever we land, and we're going to fight like hell to get it done, and be as scrappy and as positive as we can to take those first games at districts. So we're already looking. I mean, we're looking for tomorrow, but we're looking ahead.
Okay.
We've been working for several, at practice. Like, okay, we're arranging today's practice versus the center. But last week we were arranging, what if we play Elma, what if we play Kingsway, what if we play? And so we're kind of thinking ahead mentality also. Because I don't want to put so much pressure on tomorrow's game that some of my athletes can't handle that. Because then when you start hyping something up so big, and then you start seeing the nerves before the game even happens, that's not a good thing, So they know it's an important game, but we really try to stay as calm and positive as we can. So when we lead into that, it's more like another game and not, this is the biggest game, oh my gosh.
Right.
Because some kids don't handle it as well as Logan and some of the other class.
Right. Let's squeeze in a little bit. I'm starting to worry about between the lights going off and.
Yep. No, we're good. Thank you.
So the 1A's got, especially for volleyball, one of the tougher roads to a state title because you have at least 3 private schools that are able to bring kids in 50 miles out. It seems like there's never a girl on any of those teams shorter than 6 feet tall.
True.
How do you counter that? What would you take on that?
You definitely have to start working with kids at a younger age, especially since we can't really recruit like the private schools. You got to start working with your younger programs. We really try to help and incorporate our middle schoolers in and help them out. We really try to encourage our elementary kids to join club, go to open gyms. It really starts at a young age, especially in our town, everything. You really got to help each other. It's a community.
Okay. And then how about when you guys are on the floor, too? I mean, obviously the natural thing most of the time in pretty much every sport, when you've got size on one side, the natural counter is speed. Is it the same in volleyball?
Yeah, I would say confidence. Our school is not known for height, for sure.
Oh, that's what it is. It's motion detector lights. I was wondering if it was on a timer or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, our school is definitely not known for height, but I would say confidence plays a key role in taking over that height. Whereas we're short, but we got lots of confidence, and really staying positive with each other really boosts our confidence. Whereas we see the other team like, oh yeah, they're tall, but we're mighty, and we got each other's backs, we can support each other. We got her, she can jump up and block in. If she's not there, we'll be there for defense.
And I
Really
think
just
also,
be there for each
if
other.
you take a look at some of the most well-known clubs in the United States or the nation, you're looking at Puerto Rico, you're looking at Hawaii, you have so many of those different teams. They don't have anyone on there taller than 5'8".
Okay.
No joke. And they play defense. And they play defense so well that they basically outlast the other team to the first mistake. And so they believe that we will pass every ball, we'll make a play, we'll always get it on the other side. So it's a different style of volleyball. I feel like in the last, we've never really had a tall team where we've had 3 front row players that have been that tall. So we've had to adjust to that mentality. Never say that I no ball hits the floor. We start heavily on defense. Defense is the key. Then you can end with offense. And so I think that's a really important, Logann can hit the crap out of the ball, and she's not that tall. But she can read the ball, she can get around the block, she can find the hole. So those are all the mental aspect of the game. If you have that and you're a smart player, you can always outright height with your determination.
And then heading into state, I'd have to imagine that winning a state title is one objective, but are there other objectives that you guys as a team want to kind of accomplish?
I would say game by game. I wouldn't worry so much. We haven't really been stressing on getting to state. It's more of a win the next game. Right now we're focused on tomorrow. We got the center. We're gonna go out there. Everyone's gonna do their job. Once that game's over with, then we'll worry about the next game. For sure.
And that's, I think, part of our mental training too. Because if we start looking at the end, then we've kind of missed what's in the now. And it's hard to make changes for the end when it's unknown. And we can make changes for what we know is occurring now. And all these changes that are happening now are going to prepare us for what will come next. I mean, of course, I'm doing my scouting. I mean, I'm doing I read all the articles. I know who is winning and who is not winning and who's probably going to come out of this district and this district. You know, and I think, you know, a huge thing, just like last year, our second match we called Kings. Kings, like, should have came out first. They had a faux pas and came out third, so we pull, you know, and so it doesn't matter. You can train for whatever, but things are going to happen, and it's how you adjust. I mean, it's how you adjust to those different opportunities that are going to help you continue to guide your path to, hopefully. I mean, yes, we would love a state championship again. Winning one is probably the best thing that's happened to me career-wise. I loved it. We've been second twice, we've been third, we've been fourth twice. We were sixth last year. Should have taken fifth, but we were a little off. But now that they've tasted a trophy in place, I think that's going to be probably our next outlook. Make it state. We don't want to go in. We don't want to go in third. At least if we go in third, at least we're still going. But that's a hard draw. You know, we've done that before. And so it's kind of taking a look at what's next and how we're going to maneuver what we need to do to continue our success.
Okay. And then my final question is kind of, as a player, how exhausting is a state tournament?
It's super exhausting. It takes a toll on your body for sure, because you're not just playing, like, some days you're playing up to 3 games, and that's crazy. We get tired playing, one game against a really good team, so really going in there, you're being aware of what you're coming up against, and also, like, being on top of even, like, eating and staying hydrated is a really key role. We were really good about getting to bed on time last year and staying hydrated and really making sure what we ate was going to keep us energized for our next game and not snacking on junk food and everything. So not only, like, playing and energy-wise, but we also, like, made sure we were healthy as a team, so we had enough energy to take on whoever was next.
Sleep still. I'm glad that's becoming more of a. It's
For
funny.
sure.
I was sure when you were a kid too. Sleep was almost frowned upon. You're weak if you, or something like that. But now, yeah, I'm glad.
Nap save lives.
That's right. Exactly. Seriously. So.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Well, thanks for joining me on this, and thanks for watching, everybody.
I appreciate you coming out and taking the time to support our program.
Yeah.
It's nice that the kids get recognized and that the surrounding cities in Cowlitz County. I mean, a lot of people read about us. A lot of people will show up to the game tomorrow night, and we thank you for this opportunity as well. Thank you.
Awesome. All right.